That massive $1.7 trillion spending bill was flown to President Biden for his signature while he vacations down in St. Croix. How nice, sniff, sniff. Former Governor of Arkansas, Mike Huckabee, joins me now. You know, Governor, does it bother you that the president chose to have the bill literally flown to him instead of interrupting his vacation to come back to Washington and sign it?
Well, it does, and I think it's the inefficiency of it all. I mean, at least he could have loaded up the plane with some Uber Eats and delivered to St. Croix, or he could have picked up some of those people in Buffalo who are freezing to death and have become human popsicles, and he could have flown them down to the beach to share the time with the warmth. But this is ridiculous, to scramble an Air Force jet to send a piece of paper down so he can sign it, because he was too lazy to do it when he was still in Washington, and he didn't, have the just good sense to wait until the paper was on his desk, sign it, and then he could go and have his vacation down in the warmth of the sunshine. It's just another outrageous way to say, we care so much about climate change. You people shouldn't be flying on jets and using cars that have emissions. But if I need a piece of paper flown, I wonder, Ashley, how much carbon dumped into the air just to get that little piece of paper down to the Virgin Islands?
Well, you know, how do you feel about the president, Governor, taking a vacation with all the problems going on right now? Or is that an unfair criticism? He has to take a break at some point. It's not easy being president.
Well, let's be fair. He's president wherever he is, and the communications capacity of the White House staff is such that he can be anywhere and still be in complete control and management. My issue is not where he is. It's, is he there at all? When I watch him do the ghost handshake after virtually every speech and have to be let off the stage, I'm not as worried about where he is geographically. I'm worried more about where he is mentally, because I truly do have concerns about his capacity.
All right, next one for you, Governor. Your daughter, Sarah, is the governor-elect of Arkansas. She has vowed to transform education in her state. She's even poached, by the way, one of Florida's top education officials to help her do that. Do you want to give us some inside information on what she's exactly looking to do?
Well, she wants to focus on reading. She wants to focus on preschool, making sure that by the fourth grade, every child is at grade level, because if they're not, quite frankly, this is a historical fact, they'll probably never catch up. So she understands that getting a good start is really the key. I think this is a brilliant choice on her part. I give her all the credit. I had nothing to do with it. I didn't know Jacob, but he's being lauded by both Ron DeSantis and former Governor Jeb Bush, who is one of the nation's premier experts on education. Jeb Bush has spent his life pretty much focused on it. And everyone who knows him and has worked with him has said he is a true blue chipper. So I think it was a brilliant choice on the part of my daughter. Just like it was a brilliant choice to be my daughter in the first place and to pick me to be her dad. I mean, that was brilliant too.
Brilliant all around. Governor Mike Huckabee, great stuff as always. Thank you, Governor, and a Happy New Year to you.